Good afternoon, and welcome to the second of our office hour series for the Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management 2025 licensing application cycle. My name is Maron Melican, and I serve as the Outreach Director here at the OCM. I am here alongside some of my colleagues from the OCM who will be tuned in and tracking your questions throughout this presentation. For general awareness, this session will be recorded and posted on the OCM YouTube page for your review at a later date. If you haven't had the chance already, please check out the OCM YouTube to see our micro business, meso business, and retailer webinar from last week. I would also like to preface this presentation by stating that this information in the presentation is not legal advice. Please review Minnesota Statutes Chapter 342 and/or consult with an attorney regarding the various license types prior to making any final decisions. The information in this presentation is solely intended to provide a general overview of permitted activities under the various license types, and I will just say is not exhaustive. It is also meant to provide you with resources and guidance materials to help you navigate through the licensing process. All right, so to get us started, I will walk us through a general agenda for today's session. We'll begin with providing an overview of the four license types on the calendar for the day. We'll discuss key terms, the various endorsements, the differences between some of the license types, walk through the application and common mistakes, and end our program going through the questions that you submitted in advance of today's event. I want to thank you all for submitting these questions as they helped OCM understand which areas of our guidance are still unclear and give us the opportunity to clarify. I also want to note that you all submitted several questions and they both helped guide the creation of this presentation. So you'll realize that we addressed some of the things that you asked us in advance, and many of which that will be covered during the Q&A portion of the event. And so please continue to submit questions to the OCM inbox. Feel free to continue to send questions to our team and we'll track them and work to provide guidance on our site moving forward. So to get us started, I wanted to speak a little bit about the OCM. So the Office of Cannabis Management was established to promote public health and welfare, protect public safety, eliminate the illicit market for cannabis flower and cannabis products, meet the market demand for cannabis flower and cannabis products, promote a craft industry for cannabis flower and cannabis products, and prioritize growth and recovery in communities that have experienced disproportionate negative impacts from cannabis prohibition. As a regulatory office, we are also tasked with licensing for the adult use cannabis industry, which is why we're all here today, is to learn a bit more about the licensing process and dig a little bit deeper into some of the license types. Before we get too deep into the licensing portion of the presentation, I want to highlight a recent announcement from the Office of Cannabis Management. The OCM announced the Can Renew Community Restoration Grant Program to help restore communities disproportionately impacted by drug enforcement. A request for proposals or RFP is available now on our website for those interested in applying for grant funds. I do want to point out that this is specifically for community restoration and is not necessarily a business grant. Projects for this grant will address a range of community needs from including economic development, public health, violence prevention, youth development, and civil and legal aid. To learn more about the other technical assistance grants, you can check out the Office of Cannabis Management's website, where we have a link to other state agencies that are hosting additional grant programs that focus a bit more on technical assistance and such. Just for general awareness, the request for proposal is live on our website right now. So for those that are interested in applying for the Can Renew Community Restoration Grant Program, and the deadline to apply is March 24th. So to provide some grounding, I wanted to highlight our current license cycle. As you can see, the cycle began with the social equity verification process from January 15th to January 30th, followed by the opening of the license application window on February 18th. This window will be closed on March 14th, followed by a May to June timeline for lotteries for the capped licenses. This timeline can also be found on our website at mn.gov/OCM. But overall, this is a good tool to monitor where we are in the process and to be able to track. The next resource that I want to highlight is our From Start to License, Your Path to Cannabis Licensing in Minnesota graphic. This graphic can be found on our Cannabis Business Licensing webpage. This is a graphic that can help you further understand your path to cannabis licensing in Minnesota. It's a step-by-step walkthrough of the various stages of licensing. As you can see, we are focused on the dark and lighter blue boxes as you can see over at step 1. However, the tool also walks through some of the details for final submissions and local government approval, pre-licensure inspection, among a host of other items along the way. Again, this is a handy tool to just help illustrate the many steps that it takes to officially get to license issuance. And so where we're focused right now is really in that light blue and dark blue section, beginning at step 1 or start here, complete your application. So now I am going to walk us through a license overview where we'll take a look at the testing facility, manufacturer, cultivator, and wholesaler licenses, discuss their allowable activities, licenses that can be held simultaneously, walk through endorsements, and just take a look at some of the differences between these different license types. So to get us started, I want to talk through a few key terms. The first being license. So a license is an official authorization to conduct lawful cannabis business operations. To begin lawful operation, licenses must be active and coincide with necessary endorsements from OCM and local retail registrations if applicable. And the second term that I want to go through is endorsement. And that is an authorization granted by OCM to conduct a specific cannabis business activity, for example, cultivation operations. An active license with an endorsement allows for a business to begin operations for that activity, except for retail activity. And these key terms, among a host of other terms, can be found on our website under the document Qualified Applicant Guide to Obtaining a License. And so I highly encourage folks to take a look at that document as it provides a number of different guidance related items, but specifically breaks down some of the key terms that you'll probably see a lot, you'll hear us speak about a lot, but you'll see throughout the various guidance materials and such. So we will begin with the testing facilities license. Cannabis testing facilities can obtain and test immature cannabis plants and seedlings, cannabis flower, cannabis products, hemp plant parts, hemp concentrate, artificially derived cannabinoids, lower potency hemp edibles, and hemp derived consumer products from businesses licensed to produce these items or those items. They ensure these products meet safety standards. One thing to note here is that the testing facilities license is an uncapped license, and applicants will not be subject to a lottery. Um, the testing facility license does not have additional licenses that can be held simultaneously with it, and a cannabis testing facility licensee may not own or operate or be employed by other cannabis businesses or hemp businesses. As it relates to endorsements and allowable activities, testing facilities will not be able to partake in other activities other than testing requirements as outlined in Chapter 342.61. For further guidance, please monitor the draft rules. OCM will be releasing a lab standard document shortly, which will provide guidance on testing and contamination standards as well. To learn a bit more about the various allowable activities and endorsement types, about the various license types, feel free to check out a document on our website labeled Cannabis License and Endorsement Type. So now we are going to transition a bit over to the manufacturer license. Cannabis manufacturers process cannabis and hemp materials into various products such as edibles, concentrates, wax, oils, and tinctures. Manufacturers can buy cannabis flowers, cannabis products, and lower potency hemp products from other cannabis businesses. They can purchase hemp plants and concentrates from hemp businesses licensed under Chapter 18K. They turn these materials into cannabis products, lower potency hemp edibles, and hemp-derived consumer products, then package and sell them to other cannabis businesses.
Yeah, it's like literally second story.
I think I hear a little bit of background noise from someone else, if you don't mind muting. Sorry about that, guys. And so I will just continue here. As mentioned with some of the other licenses, while the last license that we discussed was an uncapped license, this is a capped license, and applicants will be selected through a vetted lottery. 24 licenses are available, 12 of which will go to social equity verified applicants and 12 to all applicants. And for the manufacturer license, additional licenses that could be held simultaneously with the cannabis manufacturer license is the cannabis cultivator and cannabis event organizer licenses. One thing to note here is that we have not started the process for the cannabis event organizer. However, there is some guidance on our website that shares that the cannabis event organizer license process will be held at a later date. And so feel free to just stay tuned with the OCM to learn a bit more about when we will launch the cannabis event organizer process. All right, so when thinking about the manufacturer license, there are a number of allowable activities. A cannabis manufacturer license can transport only from the cultivation site to the manufacturer's site on the same premises and under the same license holder. And they can sell cannabis concentrate, hemp concentrate, artificially derived cannabinoids, cannabis products, lower potency hemp edibles, and hemp-derived consumer products, and they're only allowed to sell to other cannabis businesses. There are a number of available endorsements for the manufacturer license, as you can see on the screen. The available endorsements for the manufacturer license include the medical cannabis processor and edible cannabinoid product handler endorsement. And so in order to learn a bit more about the various cannabis allowable activities and the various endorsement types, you can look at this guidance that we have on our website under the document labeled Cannabis License and Endorsement Type. I also encourage you to check out the statute, Chapter 342, in which it dives a bit deeper into the various allowable activities and endorsement types so that you have a good understanding of what types of activities that you actually want to do with the said license that you are thinking about applying for or obtaining, and thinking about, as a result, what type of allowable activities you want to do and which endorsements will be required in order to do some of those. All right, so now we'll talk about the cannabis cultivator license. The cannabis cultivators can grow cannabis plants from seed to maturity. Cultivators are allowed to harvest, package, and label cannabis flower, seedlings, and immature cannabis plants for sale to other cannabis businesses. And you can learn a bit more about this in Chapter 342.30. One thing to note is that this is a cap license and applicants will be selected through a vetted lottery. For this license type, there are 50 licenses available and 25 which will go to social equity verified and 25 which will go to all applicants. And as it relates to additional licenses that may be held simultaneously, the additional licenses that are that could be held simultaneously with the cannabis cultivator license is the cannabis manufacturer and the cannabis event organizer license. But as I mentioned earlier, the cannabis event organizer license is not available at this time, but stay tuned and stay connected to our office, and we'll be able to share more information once that goes live. When thinking about the cultivator license, there are a few allowable activities. The cultivator license can grow up to 30,000 square feet of plant canopy indoors or up to 2 acres of mature flowering plants outdoors. They can sell immature cannabis plants, seedlings, and cannabis flower, and they are only allowed to sell to other cannabis businesses. There are a few endorsements for the cultivator license, as you can see on the screen. The available endorsements for the cultivator license include the medical cannabis cultivation and the edible cannabinoid product handler endorsement. And again, you can review more about this both in our cannabis license and endorsement type guidance, but also by taking a look at Chapter 342 and digging in a bit deeper about the various endorsement types and allowable activities. So now we're going to transition over to the wholesaler license. The cannabis wholesaler license can buy cannabis, cannabis products, and lower potency hemp edibles and hemp-derived consumer products from cannabis businesses and then sell them to other cannabis and lower potency hemp retailers. They can import hemp-derived consumer products and lower potency hemp edibles that contain hemp concentrate or artificially derived cannabinoids as well. This is an uncapped license, and applicants will not be subject to a lottery for this license. And additional licenses that could be held simultaneously with the wholesaler license include the cannabis transporter license, the cannabis event organizer, and the cannabis delivery license. We have an upcoming informational session that is actually going to be about both the cannabis transporter and the cannabis delivery license on Thursday. So I encourage you guys to register for that and to join us and pre-submit any questions that you may have about those two license types. And as mentioned earlier, the cannabis event license or the cannabis event organizer license has not gone live yet. And so we will share that at a later date. So when thinking about some of the allowable activities as a wholesaler, um, they are able to sell immature cannabis plants and seedlings, cannabis flower, cannabis products, lower potency hemp edibles, and hemp-derived consumer products to cannabis micro businesses, cannabis meso businesses, cannabis manufacturers, and cannabis retailers. And they can sell low potency hemp edibles to lower potency hemp edible retailers. There are two endorsements that are available for wholesalers, as you can see on the screen. Those being the hemp-derived product importer and the edible cannabinoid product handler endorsement. And so really, again, I encourage folks to check out Chapter 342 to learn a bit more about the various allowable activities and to learn a bit more about the endorsement so that you have a good understanding of what activities you would like to pursue with the specific license type that you are thinking about pursuing to be able to help you make your necessary business decisions. One of the last items I want to cover is our license overview. In our license overview is the cost of each license type. The license types have an application fee, initial licensing fees, and renewal fee, licensing fees. And I just want to note that these are non-refundable per Chapter 342.11. Another item to note is just in general as it relates to all license types that require local retail registration. Um, Local retail registration may also have a fee. However, that is separate from the Office of Cannabis Management. And so that might be something that would happen with respective local governments that you may be engaging with. So as you guys can see, this can also be found on our website, but just a general overview of the various fees that exist with the various license types. So now I want to pivot a little bit over to some of our just common mistakes to avoid and items to consider as you are preparing your application and preparing to submit your application. One thing that we do want to mention as it relates to the testing facility license is that applicants for the cannabis testing facility license must attest in their application that they are ISO accredited and will provide proof of this accreditation as a condition for licensing. And so I encourage you to just stay up to date with our office as we will be providing additional guidance and FAQs on our website to be able to continue to support folks throughout this process. But this is one thing that we want folks to just be aware of throughout the application process. So, getting to some of the common mistakes. Common mistake number one, leaving sections blank. Throughout the application, you may find items you think do not apply to you yet. Despite this, please still provide a preliminary plan or verify if the requested information is a requirement. OCM does not require you to have a physical location at the time of initial application, but we require preliminary plans for items such as compliance with building codes and federal and state regulations, planned square footage for authorized activities, and utility plans. One thing I want to just mention to you all is always fill out the application thoroughly. Don't leave any segments blank. And make sure that you're following any of the specific instructions that are provided within with your respective application and with any of the questions that are being asked. Use the guidance documents as well, as they really are um, I almost look at them as like a step-by-step piece of guidance that can really help you and ensure that you're dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's and making sure that you are completing the application process fully. The second common mistake that we want to share with you all is not providing detailed information. When completing your application, verify that you have submitted all the information that OCM requires. Make sure to include even minor details if OCM has it listed. Include details such as contact info, required personal information, etc. Avoid general statements and instead provide those line by line details. And I will just say that it's better to provide too much information rather than keeping a section blank. And so when in doubt, make sure that you're filling out your application, make sure that you are filling out all of the sections thoroughly, and that you're really providing all of the information that OCM has requested or that OCM has listed. And the second piece, or the third common mistake that I want to share is not disclosing all the owners and managers. OCM requires all applicants to disclose their ownership model and provide details of each owner's involvement and control. As you complete your application, please make sure that you're including all the requested information and are consistent throughout the application with the listed individuals. Even if someone has minimal stake or role in the proposed business, we advise applicants to still include them in their application. This one I will just say is we highly encourage this, is that anything around ownership and control, that you are disclosing all of this information within your application and that you are consistent within the application and the various areas that it may request this information, that you are providing all of this to OCM on the front end, um, as it is a requirement for the application. So I know that I just shared quite a lot of information about the various license types, the various allowable activities, the various endorsements that you could take part in, as well as some guidance on some of common mistakes and I would say some tips that we really encourage you all to use. Um, I also wanted to just provide you with what we would say are some OCM recommended actions. And it starts with some of our guidance documents. If you haven't already, use the Cannabis Business License Application Review and Qualifications Guidance that OCM has available on its website to review your application. It allows you to really see all of the various things that OCM requests within your application. And it's really is like a helpful tool as you are navigating the SLS system. the seller application system, to ensure that you're really incorporating everything that is requested of you. I also encourage you to use the qualified applicant guide to obtaining a license document. It's on OCM's website, and it's a great way to see an overview of the overall license process, the pathway to licensure, and to learn a bit more about the various key terms. As mentioned earlier, the two terms that I went over with you at the beginning of this presentation are included in that guide, among a host of others. It's a great way to just get grounded within the process and to kind of understand which part of the license process are you in right now, and probably a helpful place that you could find some FAQs and answers to some of your common questions. I will also say review the cannabis license and endorsement type chart. I referred to this a few times during the presentation, but it's a good way to understand um, some of the allowable activities per license types and endorsements that are required. I will say it is not an exhaustive list. And so in addition to that guidance, I would also encourage you to review Chapter 342, as there is a lot more supplemental information there that you could really be able to dig a bit deeper into. And lastly, I will say follow along with the from start to license, your path to cannabis licensing Minnesota chart. That was the first chart, one of the first charts that we went through in the beginning of the presentation. And it's where I said that, we're really starting at step one, and I believe even getting closer to step two. So that light blue and that dark blue pathway to licensure. Um, but it allows you to see where you are throughout the process. We are only at the very beginning, and so there are still a number of steps to take even after you submit your application. And so it's a helpful tool to just have. I will just say I have it sitting right here with me at my desk as well, and so it's a helpful guidance document to keep you updated on where you are throughout the licensing process. In addition, we also encourage you, if you haven't already, is begin thinking about where you may want to locate or operate. Research local zoning regulations, build relationships with local government partners, and begin just thinking about that part of the process. We encourage you to do this, to begin thinking about this and or engaging local government sooner rather than later, as it allows you to build relationships and understand what local governments are thinking about when it comes to their respective cities and counties, and to understand if there are any established zoning regulations that you should be aware of as you're thinking about your operations. The next thing I would recommend is starting your application early, but with the caveat, take all the time that you need to review it. There is no need to rush to get it submitted as soon as possible. We encourage folks to take their time, review it again, have another person review it as well, just to make sure that it is really complete and that it has all of the necessary information needed. I will say that applications and payment must be submitted by March 14th, 2025. And so it's important that you meet that deadline. So don't wait too long. I would encourage you to make sure that you're not waiting right until the last minute. However, take the time that you need to ask the questions that you need, use our customer service line, attend these various sessions, send emails as needed. And we will try our best to be able to answer those and to be able to help provide guidance. Use the guidance that we have on our website. As I say, it is really a helpful tool in navigating the application process. And I jumped to it already in saying that folks should use our customer service line, but one thing to just note is that OCM cannot provide business advice or specific application support, but we are able to assist with any user issues in navigating Acela. We can also direct you to the various resources that we have on our website, or help clarify items. And so again, reach out to us via email at cannabis.info@state.mn.us if you have specific questions about the licensing process and such. I will also say that the questions that you guys submitted during this presentation, we are taking them in real time and are developing typing them into further FAQs for our website. And so that is a guidance document, a guidance piece that I actually realized I didn't mark within this presentation, but our FAQ page, that is a vital space that you should continue to be able to monitor and look to if there are specific questions that you're unsure of. I can guarantee that several other people probably ask the same question. And so as a result, we've developed those into FAQs and try to keep up to date with them on our website. So I spoke a little bit about this earlier, but we highly encourage folks to work with their local governments. Local governments will play a key role in oversight of the state's cannabis industry, and a critical role in the licensing process. Local governments can establish zoning regulations and land use ordinances and may impact your decision on where to operate. OCM recommends that you begin building a relationship with the local government of where you want to operate to learn about their zoning requirements as well. And so we have a guide for local governments on adult use cannabis that is on our website. It's really directed to support local governments throughout their process, but it's open to the public and folks can be able to dig right into there and kind of understand some of the local processes that they have to take within the adult use cannabis market and licensing process. And it could be a helpful resource to you as you're thinking about the next steps in figuring out how to engage with your respective local government. So we did talk about a lot of resources already, and so I just wanted to be able to navigate and show you guys how to find these resources. As you can see, they are on our website. They are all located under mn.gov/OCM. However, on that site, you could see under the business section, you could see everything from licensing to our qualified applicant guide to obtaining a license, our cannabis business license application review and qualifications guidance, the license and endorsement chart, the path to cannabis licensing in Minnesota, and a link to our FAQs as well. We are planning to record each of these sessions as well, and so there will be links to these to our YouTube on this site as well. And so we highly encourage you guys. I almost look at this as like a one-stop shop of all the resources that you need to dig into as you're thinking about and as you're navigating the application process. And I highly encourage that folks print all of these documents, take a look at them, walk through them, make sure that you're meeting all of the requirements that are listed within each of the guidance documents as you're completing your applications. So now I'm going to walk through some of your pre-submitted questions. I know that a number of questions that you guys asked, we tried our best to layer them throughout the presentation as well. And so it was helpful. It was also fitting in that some of the things that we thought were really valuable and that we thought we should share are also some of the questions that you had. And so very thankful to you all for pre-submitting your questions. We will continue to use these questions. We will continue to find a place on our website to be able to house all of the Q&A as well. But of course, feel free to continue to submit questions that you have to our office, whether it's through throughout this presentation as well, through the QA function, or if you do it through our customer service line, and we'll try our best to continue to respond to those. So to just get us started, I'll just walk through the various questions that you guys submitted and some of our answers. The first question being, how many locations are wholesalers allowed to operate? And the response here is a wholesaler does not have a limit on the number of locations they are able to operate as long as it complies with all local and zoning ordinances. The next question is, if I get a micro or meso license, could I also get a wholesaler license, or are they exclusive to one another? And the answer here is micro and meso businesses cannot simultaneously hold any other licenses except a cannabis event organizing license. The following licenses are the only ones that are able to be held simultaneously as a wholesaler, that being a cannabis transporter, cannabis event organizer, and cannabis delivery license. And I will just mention here, because I know I mentioned it earlier, so for folks that were not able or that missed the earlier part of the presentation, but We have not opened up for the cannabis event organizer license yet. And so there is some guidance on our webpage, but that event organizer license will be open at a later date. And so stay tuned with our office. This next question is around the review process. So what is the review process going to look like? And at what point will applicants know whether or not they are approved? We do have, I believe we released some guidance on this as well, but I can read through this. Uncapped license types include micro businesses. Uncapped license types include micro businesses, wholesaler, transporter, testing facility, delivery license, and medical cannabis combination licenses. Applications for these license types will be reviewed on a rolling basis, and because they do not involve a lottery, applicants will be able to begin their final steps to obtaining a license as soon as they are deemed qualified and rules are adopted. For the 4 license types that are capped in statute, those being the cultivator license, mezzo business, manufacturer, and retailer, half of the available licenses are reserved for verified social equity applicants, and half are available to all applicants. Qualified applicants in the 4 license types will be subject to a series of lottery drawings for distribution of these licenses. Lotteries for each license type will be conducted in 2 parts. The first part will be limited to only The first part will be limited to only verified social equity applicants. If not selected, qualified social equity verified applicants will be entered into the second part, which is open to all applicants. For the remaining licenses available, this means social equity applicants may be provided with up to 2 opportunities to be entered into a lottery. The exact timing of the lottery will really depend on the volume of applications for the available license types, as this is the first license cycle open to all applications for the 10 cannabis business license types. A high volume of applications is expected. OCM anticipates starting lotteries in the May-June timeframe. Our next question is, how should joint owners of shares how should joint owners of shares list their information on the capitalization table? Would it go on the same line item? And the answer here is joint owners of shares should list each owner and ownership amount in separate lines in the capitalization table. Additionally, every applicant should avoid combining owners into a single line item in the capitalization, as having multiple social security numbers in a single row may cause issues. And this next question is, what steps are needed after my application gets approved? And the response here is, once OCM deems an application meets qualified status, the applicant is then responsible for taking the necessary steps to convert their preliminary approval to become a qualified applicant. Some of the steps include the following: update application documents and submit final site location, local zoning compliance certification, site inspection, receiving a license, retail registration if applicable. Applicants with preliminary approval have 18 months to complete final steps and secure final licensure. And for a full list of the necessary steps, we encourage you to visit the Qualified Applicant Guide. And so this is just to note that this was not an exhaustive list, but we just wanted to kind of provide you with some of the steps and just a general preview. But again, when in doubt, really refer to these guidance documents, as they really do go further in depth into the process. Our next question is, can you get a manufacturer license and also have a micro business for a cannabis brand? And the response here is no. Per state law, Minnesota statutes 342.31, a manufacturer licensee may not also hold a micro business license. The only additional licenses a manufacturer may hold are the cannabis event organizer license and the cannabis cultivator license. Notable that manufacturing is an allowable activity of a cannabis micro business license, though, as part of that specific license type. And if there are specific questions, I will just say about micro business licenses, we have posted our last informational session about micro, meso, and retailer licenses. And so I encourage folks to check out our YouTube to be able to see some of the common questions that were asked there and some of the guidance that was provided there. And our last question was, what are the laboratory technical analytes and limits? When will they be published? And the response here is the rules reference a laboratory technical standards document that will be released shortly. The technical standard defines the analytes and limits for the contaminants and cannabinoids that must be tested for all products in the state of Minnesota. The state limits are in line with the limits that are found in other states and harmonization guides for cannabis testing. And so that was our final question that we have pre-submitted and responses. However, I did also want to note that we are continuing to work on continued questions that you guys have submitted. And so as you continue to submit questions, if we weren't able to address some of the pre-submitted questions that you sent here, we are working to be able to post them on our FAQ page. And so as soon as this YouTube video is posted online, we are hoping to also link to the FAQ page. And so it'll be a bit further in depth into some of the various questions that you may have asked. But again, really appreciate all of you guys joining us today, being able to participate, your engagement throughout the process. The various Q&A that you submitted throughout the presentation will really allow us to understand what is still unclear, both throughout the presentation and about our guidance, and allow us to understand what additional guidance we need to provide for folks to be able to navigate through this process. And so continue to reach out to us, continue to send questions to cannabis.info@state.mn.us, and feel free to continue to engage with this process. And I look forward to hearing from you all. Take care, everyone.